I get criticized sometimes, inappropriately by the way, by people who say, Carson grew up very poor, he must have benefited from some government programs, and now he wants to withdraw all the safety nets. Well, this is nothing but a blatant lie by people who need to characterize me as heartless. They love to do that. They love to say Carson's insensitive and he's heartless and he hates people because they need that narrative. That's the only way that it can be acceptable because I don't fit into their general description. You know, a black person who is a conservative, they can't quite deal with that. Who talks about self-reliance and that you're not dependent on them? Oh, how could you possibly say such heresy?
In your first 3 months in office, what would be different and how will the people know it?
Well, first of all, I would call for a joint session of Congress. And I would want them to know that under a Carson administration, we recognize that the people are at the pinnacle and that we work for them and they don't work for us. And we have to begin to also understand that we are Americans first and Democrats and Republicans second, or maybe even third. You know, we have to stop fighting each other because one of the things that I think threatens to destroy our nation is the extreme divisiveness. And we've gotten to the point where we believe that if somebody disagrees with you, then you need to try to destroy them, destroy their family and their livelihood. Where did that come from? I guarantee you it did not come from our Judeo-Christian values and roots.
As president, who would you want as chairman of the Federal Reserve, and or what kind of qualities do you want in that person?
Honesty and common sense would be good starters. And that's not to say that we haven't had such people. You know, I like Janet Yellen. You know, I've served on a board with her. She's a very decent person. I think she's trying very hard. But you got to realize that we've put the Fed in a very difficult position right now because of the amount of debt that we've accumulated. It's very hard for the Fed to allow interest rates to rise to a reasonable level with an $18+ trillion national debt. The debt service on it with an interest rate suppressed almost to zero is still $250 billion a year. Can you imagine what it would be if we allowed the interest rates to rise to their normal levels? So we need to be working on driving that debt down, and I have some ideas about how that can be done. And that can have a very ameliorating effect and some freedom for the Fed. But the other thing is I would like to see somebody who understands that we can't just print money based on the good name and faith and credit of the United States of America. You know, we decoupled, you know, in 1971, 1933 and 1971 from the gold standard. It doesn't have to be gold. There are other things that it can be coupled to, but we need to have some responsible underlying to what we do, and I think it will make a big difference. I am very concerned about the downtrodden people in our society, and I do believe we have a responsibility to take care of them. But when I say we, I'm talking about we the people. I'm talking about the private sector. I'm not talking about the government. You know, the government, you know, has been taking this on really since Woodrow Wilson, but it kept increasing. By the time we got to Lyndon Johnson and the war on poverty, you know, it was, hey, we're the savior. We're going to take care of you guys. We're going to solve all these problems. Well, here we are all these years later, $19 trillion later. Did we solve the problem? we have 10 times more people on food stamps, more people in poverty, welfare, broken homes, out-of-wedlock births, crime, incarceration. Everything that was supposed to be better is not only worse, it's much worse. So I'm not going to sit here and demonize the government for doing that, but I'm saying, isn't it time to wake up and start thinking about another way to do things, rather than driving ourselves into debt without solving the problem? And that is a tremendous responsibility of the government as well, to remain solvent, because you are the guardian of the people's future. I mean, how can we enjoy, the liberties and have our posterity enjoy the liberties if they are overloaded with debt? $18.5 trillion, the national debt? Think about that. To pay that back at $10 million a day, it would take you over 5,000 years. That's absurd. And we're putting that on the backs of our young people. And now, here we are, sitting here saying, let's increase the debt some more. Let's raise the debt ceiling some more. Did it ever maybe occur to us that there's another way? I mean, there are 4.1 million federal employees. I would offer that that's too many. And there are 645 federal agencies and sub-agencies, all of whom have budgets. This is absurd. And we have people saying, if you cut the budget by 1 penny, it will be a disaster. Nancy Pelosi. This is absolutely absurd, okay? But we must think about the children. And that really is the main reason that I've gotten into the fray here. As a pediatric neurosurgeon, my whole professional career was centered on the children and on the future for the children. What we had to do to improve quality of life for them. How can we in good conscience continue this charade of responsibility, knowing what we are doing to their future?